The swarm of reporters and researchers and conspiracy theorists who descended on the National Archives were looking for answers or proof. They got a lot of pages and more questions. There were no explanations of motorcade routes or motives. There was plenty of evidence that the CIA had investigated the assassination, but no clue to what the CIA knew before President Kennedy was shot. Lots of stuff on Lee Harvey Oswald, his days in the Soviet Union, Mexico, his library books and dry cleaning tags, and his mental state. But no answer to the big question, why? There still are 10,000 pages of documents that have not been released. Some of them will never be made public. So conspiracy theories are intact, questions do remain, and people don't believe. Among those who don't believe are Mrs. Kenneth Porter, the former wife of Lee Harvey Oswald, and Larry Howard of the JFK Assassination Information Center, which is an independent research organization, and they join us tonight from Dallas. Mrs. Porter, I want to begin with you. Let me ask you, first of all, when you say that Lee Harvey Oswald, in your judgment now, was innocent, what does that mean? Do you believe that he did not pull the trigger, that he did not fire the fatal shots?
Well, he definitely did not fire the shots, according to all the evidence that I have right now. But even if you don't have the evidence, at the beginning, like in 1963, you cannot come to the conclusion that he is a guilty party, because he never had been brought to trial by legal means and had been accused by the media, and already premeditated statements have been about his guilt were made public, and now it's so much emphasis on Lee Harvey Oswald, so all the attention mostly concentrated on him or me as some kind of attraction.
Well, let me ask.
And so they that take the light of the actual what do you call it, killers, or what really happened in 1963. Sure.
Let me ask you about the evidence, first of all. First of all, a whole range of ballistic tests have shown that the bullets did in fact come from his gun. You took a picture of him with that very rifle. His palm prints and fingerprints were all over the school book depository.
Would you please repeat the question? Let's start with question number one. Statement of use number one.
All right, the first question that I have for you is that all kinds of ballistic tests show that the bullets in fact came from that rifle. That was his rifle. You took a picture of him with it. His palm prints and fingerprints were all over the school book depository.
You have been misinformed.
Well,
you have been misinformed. The ballistic test did not prove anything at all. Nobody showed me any ballistic test with the proof.
Have you, there is a new book out. Yes, Mrs. Porter, there is a new book.
Forget about this book. It's like a wallpaper in a room full of termites.
Have you read it?
Just can cover up. No, but I've seen some pieces over there. It's ridiculous.
But this is a man...
If you can snap this on American public, you don't think very much about American people.
Well, but the fact is that, Mrs. Porter, this is a man that you're maligning, a man who is a well-known independent lawyer who has a strong record of independent research, who went back through all of the evidence very carefully, and even people who have been skeptical about the original findings.
That's what he told you. That's what he paid to do, to start at the 30th anniversary, simply convince people that the Warren Commission from the day one was right. And there's plenty evidence to prove absolutely different. Yeah, but nobody roll up the sleeves and dig in those evidence because it's inconvenient.
Let me ask you about, at the time of the assassination, you acknowledge that Lee Harvey Oswald was a man who had been abusive to you. You have said recently that you did not love him in any way.
I never said I did not love him.
Did you love him?
Of course I did.
Why are you so eager now to protect his memory when at the time you agreed that very likely he was the assassin?
I agree. I said Lee was guilty only after the Warren Commission asked me that question. Shortly after, and they said, on the basis that all evidence is presented in front of you, and the evidence were presented in front of me, mostly my testimony, and some kind of rifle in front of me, which I identify as Lee, but I'm not expert on it. Then lots of questions, my answers have been interpreted through the interpreted back. So I have been accused of giving wrong testimony or inconsistency, for which I do not know if I'm responsible or not, because it doesn't sound like the answers that I gave were entirely my answers, but that's beside the point. Yes, I did believe in government of this country and law, and I assume blindly that what I have been told must be correct.
But the fact is that there have been a number of independent investigations now by independent journalists and by independent authors, and they also have come to the conclusion. They have come to the conclusion.
Not they come to the conclusion. Only one chosen by the government right now, or by whoever who wants to prove that Warren Commission was right. And I'm not here to argue over rights or wrong of Mr. Posner's book, because I'm not wishing to publicize this book.
But the fact is, who would you trust to make the final judgment? It seems to me that you are unwilling to accept any of the facts that have been presented so far.
Let me stop him.
I am the harshest judge of Lee Harvey Oswald, because I don't want to go to bed with one even technicality that is to make him free.
Mr. Howard?
If I have a choice to be a wife of assassin and to really know what actually happened into this country and what one assassination after another leading to it, I'd much rather be a wife of assassin than to be lied to.
Than to believe
or to be lied to American people.
Mr. Howard? Well, let me ask you a question. You've become
let me talk to you. When you get your facts straight, then I think you ought to do the interview. Until you get them straight, I don't think we ought to sit here and listen to you. Mr. Posner, who did the book, was up here for 2 weeks in my center. I offered him my phones, my archives.
Right.
The man's not very bright. He never asked me one question. So when you get your facts straight, we'll continue with the interview.
Mr. Howard, you can take your earpiece out. I think that shows you how eager you are to pursue the truth, because the fact is that Mr. Posner has a meticulous record of examination and investigation. He investigated the Mengele case.
I'll stand my ground and I'll argue with you, okay? If you call somebody, call on the television, on telephone, and tell you that they're going to write the book, and they ask you questions, and I give everybody a fair chance.
Yeah.
It's better than to write the book without.
Right.
Better write the book with asking me questions. So he asked about the character, what I think about Ruth Payne, and this and that. I don't call that investigation.
But he went well beyond you, Mrs. Porter. Yes, I'm still here. But he went well beyond you. He went back and re-indexed all of the evidence that was available to the Warren Commission. He did independent interviews with other people. He engaged scientific analysis. He engaged scientific analysis.
I'm not going to argue with you, because it's your country too, and you should be concerned about what's happening. So let's do it nicely and politely, okay?
Yes, I'm willing to do that. What I'm troubled by, I guess, is that I fail to see factual evidence on the other side. I've seen a number of conspiracy theories. Is that I fail to see factual evidence on the other side. I've seen a number of conspiracy theories over the years that have been put forward or posited, and almost all of them have been knocked down, including the grassy knoll.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go have an open symposium with all the facts presented to the public. It will be just wonderful. And invite Mr. What's his name? Posner on it. That will be fine. I read one thing in the USA, whatever, where he's promoting his book. And he described in the Zapruder film everything backwards, how everything splashed forward. And this is not so. Warren Commission conclusions came only from the few shots not even shown entirely Zapruder film. What kind of investigation is that?
Well, but that was just the beginning of the investigation, and now there have been...
Okay, then let's come another one. I know how I have been used. I know people who betrayed me and this and that. I live in this country for 30 years. I did not come to this conclusion for the sheer convenience of me, because it's not. I'm willing to pay my price, but with all this doing, America paying a price for it too.
I'm sorry that Mr. Howard left there, because one of the things that I wanted to ask was whether or not you have been befriended by a lot of these people who continue to believe that there was a conspiracy.
I also was befriended by people from the government who betrayed me and lied to me.
Do you think
and I'm open-minded. People in the research center, people who write pro-conspiracy books, they're not accurate. They have to protect their ego. They tell lies about this and this and that. And I'll be the last person who will believe all this.
Is there ever a day, Mrs. Porter?
Okay, show me.
Is there ever a day when it goes out of your mind? Is there ever a day when you can set this aside, that terrible event of 1963?
If that was true, I would be ready to accept it right now. But when I hear lies from television, I don't think it's fair for American people to be hearing all that. And I would like to take opportunity to ask Mr. Clinton, our president, to have a pardon for Lee Harvey Oswald for the crime that he did not commit. And that can be proven in a court of law very easily, but I'm not permitted to go there.
Mrs. Porter, thank you for all of your candor. And I know that this
No, it will go away for you. It doesn't go away for you either. What else do you need?
That's true. And I'm sorry that
All
Mr.
right.
Howard wouldn't. We'll be back with more on Now right after this.